we're going to see double in Madison. Saxon and Spencer Panchik are heading to the games. Brooke is back, and Independence Day comes early for CrossFit Mayhem. We'll recap the second week of semifinals next on Game Central. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a semifinals recap edition of Game Central presented by Arasti, the official rapid recovery provider of CrossFit. I'm Sean Woodland with Tommy Marquez. They are cleaning things up here at the Knoxville Civic Coliseum after a very exciting, for the second straight week, competition here in Knoxville, Tennessee.
I'm going to be honest, Sean, I'm not sure my heart can take much more because we had big point spread jumps in the final event for the men. We had a close point spread race in the women's side. We saw some shuffling on the team side, spots up for grabs across the board. Nothing was safe, and it was exciting to say the least.
Here are the 5 men, women, and teams who will be going to Madison, Wisconsin to compete in the 2022 Noble CrossFit Games on the team side. CrossFit Mayhem Independence, they are now the 3rd Mayhem team in 2 weeks to qualify for the CrossFit Games. On the women's side, Rebecca Fusile heading to the CrossFit Games for the first time as an individual. And for the men, Saxon Panchik winds up on top of the overall leaderboard, and his twin brother Spencer for the first time heading to the CrossFit Games, and Nikki Brazier caught up with both of them following the competition.
It is like such a joyous and emotional moment, and congratulations to the both of you. We're going to have twins at the CrossFit Games. Let me start with you, charging up the leaderboard all weekend long, and to culminate here, what was going through your mind when you heard that first place spot in your name?
It's everything I've been dreaming of, since I was little, and to be able to make that a reality is amazing.
You had told me earlier this weekend that you really felt like you prepped yourself well for the season. You set yourself up for success. Now that you've executed on that, what does it look like from here to Madison?
Just keep doing what I'm doing.
More of the same. And your first trip to Madison on this side, is there a little... Congratulations. Is there a little bit of sibling rivalry here, seeing your brother at the top of the leaderboard, or is it just kind of your own race?
It's my brother, if it's anybody, it's him. Yeah, we're competitive, but I'm happy. I'm just as happy for him. It's really cool.
You've been gunning for this for a long time, and now you're finally gonna get there. You've punched your ticket. So what do you have to do to maintain this momentum moving forward?
I'm just gonna enjoy the moment, remember this feeling, and I know how hard I worked, and I've been knocked down so many times, and it's just getting back up. That's the thing.
Congratulations to you both. We will see you both in Madison.
Congratulations to both Saxon and Spencer. And Spencer Panchik had a great effort in that final event to get himself inside the top 5.
It brought back shades of 2018 when Saxon did something similar to join his brother Scott at the games at the Central Regional. And for Spencer, he needed 28 points to make up on Tyler Christoffel in that final event. He got 58. He finished 3rd. Last year at the West Coast, he had to make a huge charge just to finish 7th and come up short. I think it's just a big bounce back year for him in general. A valiant effort by Christoffel. Pushed himself to the brink, but in the very least, he gets a last chance qualifier spot.
And meanwhile, Noah Olson and Cole Sager, they are both going back to the CrossFit Games for the 9th time in their careers.
It's crazy to think that in 2014, they showed up to the games all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed as rookies. And now they're just seasoned vets, steady as they go, knocking on the door of a decade at the CrossFit Games. For Noah, he started poorly at a 19th place finish, and really it came down to 2 different missed jerks and 2 attempts on the complex, but he continued to attack. For the rest of the way, he had 4 finishes of 4th or better, each time leading from the front and being content with however the chips fell. And for Cole Sager, just more of the same. Steady as he goes, consistent. Maybe doesn't get all the press as some of the other flashy names, but he's always at the games and he's always in the hunt.
What else stood out to you after 3 days of the men's competition here at the MACC?
For me, it's Dallin Pepper. He's the most decorated teenage athlete in CrossFit Games history. 3 straight titles in 2 different divisions. Last year at the West Coast, came up 1 spot shy after being the day 1 leader. This year, looked like a completely different athlete. And in fact, he was. I spoke to his coach, Matt Torres. He said he's 10 pounds lighter this year than he was last year. He was more poised and composed. It was never a doubt whether or not he was going to Madison.
Let's go to the women's side of things, where Danielle Brandon stands atop the podium after 3 days, and she finished strong. 3 straight wins. She looks ready to contend for a podium spot in Madison.
Yeah, and speaking to her before the event, really the big hurdle was that first event. She's been dealing with a back injury, and she knew she was going to have to do damage control there. And then And in testing, she really was only able to lift 200 pounds. She did 10 pounds better than that, finished 13th. And from there, she posted to Instagram after day one, said, "It's time to eat." Well, you know what? With 3 event wins to close the competition, I'd say she was feasting, much like those buffets in Vegas where she lives.
Brooke Wells, meanwhile, finishes 4th. This is the first time that we saw her on the competition floor since that injury in Madison. She is going back to hopefully put a better period on her season than she did last year, and she was emotional following the announcement that she was going back to Madison.
Well, you got tears in my eyes, too. When you heard your name come over the PA, what was going through your mind?
I mean, just that I did it. I mean, this was the hardest year I've ever had training in my life. Just overcoming everything that I've had with my elbow. Like, I worked really hard to be ready to compete. I mean, it's only been 9 months since I had reconstructive surgery, and no one thought that that was even in the cards to be here. And then to start Saturday off with one of my worst finishes ever. It's just been a battle this entire weekend and year, and so to have it like all pay off is just like so relieving. I can finally breathe, and it's just so worth it.
It's amazing to have watched you healed, but it takes a lot of bravery to step out onto the competition floor after everything you've been through. Mentally, how strong are you this season?
Mentally has been its own battle. It's been really tough. I mean, half the time I'm like trying to convince myself that I'm not scared, but it's pretty scary. So I think it's gonna take some time, but every day is better. I'm doing things that I never thought I would be able to 9 months later, so it's going well.
We will see you in Madison. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Brooke Wells certainly made it interesting in that final event, but it was just great to see her back at full capacity, competing live in front of the fans again.
I mean, it was hard not to be emotional in that moment. She's 9 months out from major elbow reconstructive surgery. She even said in her interview that there were doubts around whether or not she would be ready to come back. But you know what? She never faltered. She committed to her rehab. She committed to competing this season. She did struggle at times. She had some trouble with the upper body pulling motions in the higher level gymnastics that have been the case in past years. But you know what? She hung in the pocket. She holds on by just 2 points. And it's crazy to think that at 27 years old, she's going to her 8th straight CrossFit Games.
And like the men's side of things, we had a really exciting finish for the women in that final heat of Event 6.
2 women that deserve a ton of credit. Sydney Mikulishin and Bailey Rail. No sophomore slump from them after appearing at the CrossFit Games for their first time as individuals last year. They looked right at home in the top 5 all weekend long. I'm really excited to see what their continued growth looks like at the Games level now that they have a year under their belt.
Let's go to the team side, where for the 2nd straight week, another team from CrossFit Mayhem has qualified for the Games. Mayhem Independence wasn't perfect. They didn't need to be. They basically had it wrapped up heading into that final event. But now 3 teams from CrossFit Mayhem are going to the Games.
This was some big-time stress testing for the Independence team because they've got some athletes that haven't been together for very long. I think they really formed this season in the off-season. You have Angelo DeChico, a key member of Mayhem for a long time. Luke Parker's been there a couple years. But then you have 2 women, particularly Sasha Nievas, who relocated to Mayhem, doesn't speak a ton of English, and fit right in. They were still able to lead wire to wire. All 4 athletes pretty much cleared the ladder. I mean, Alexis Johnson was the only one that came a couple bars shy, but after that, they looked pretty comfortable in the lead the entire way, and not just to walk away with a win, but to lead from the front. An impressive showing from a 3rd team. There's just so much talent in that gym.
Over in Africa, we had the Fittest in Cape Town semifinal going on as well. Just 1 spot up for grabs for the men, the women, and the teams. Here are your qualifiers from that semifinal for the teams. CrossFit, Commit Okavango, no surprise there. Kealan Henry, he is the man who will be representing his continent at the CrossFit Games, and Michelle Marin is going to the CrossFit Games as well. Let's start with the men's side of things. Jason Smith has been holding it down there for a while. Kealan Henry dethrones him here.
Yeah, we may be seeing a changing of the guard out in the African continent, specifically in South Africa, because Jason Smith has been the man down there forever, it feels like, making multiple trips to the CrossFit Games, even when there wasn't a guaranteed spot out of the continent. But Kealan Henry put up a big-time performance when it counted. He trailed Smith by 8 points coming into Sunday. He comes out, He makes up that difference and then some, flips the point spread in that 5th event, and then beats Jason Smith in that final event to go 2 for 2, going toe-to-toe with the best in South Africa, and now he gets to wear that moniker.
And on the women's side, we thought it would be the battle of the Michelles. It was heading into the final event. Michelle Marin gets the best of that.
Yeah, there's some excitement coming out of South Africa in Cape Town specifically. You know, some reports coming out of there that people were elated that Michelle Marin was able to walk away with that spot. Going into the final day, they were tied. Michelle Basnet, Michelle Marin tied in points. It came down to those final 2 workouts. You know what? Michelle Marin beats her in both of those events. She lives in South Africa. She's from the greater Cape Town area and really was the hometown hero this weekend. And she went to the games back in 2019, and she gets a second appearance now.
On the team side, no surprise there as CrossFit commit Okavango. Not perfect, but they were expected to qualify, and they do.
You know, the question coming in was, could they be perfect after sweeping the Open and the team quarterfinals? They hit some bumps along the way, but I was impressed with how they were able to come back from those. CrossFit Tiger Valley actually beat them in half of the events head-to-head. They split those, but then the events that Okavango won, they dominated. They won by 2.5 minutes over Tiger Valley in the swim, by 70 pounds on that snatch event. They were the only team to finish event 5 under the cap. And so really, in totality, when you look at the body of work, they were the best team.
We are halfway through the semifinals. 2 weeks remain. Let's look ahead to the upcoming week. 2 more semifinals on the schedule. One in North America, the Granite Games, and then the Asia semifinal, the Far East Throwdown. Big story going into the Granite Games. We're going to get our first live look at Mal O'Brien.
Yeah, the big question is, what does Mal 2.0 look like in live competition? The results so far have been astounding. She wins the Open worldwide. She wins quarterfinals in North America. And now we get to see her go back to the same location where she qualified for her first ever CrossFit Games as a teenager still. But now, you know what? She's an adult. She's 18 and ready to see her fly.
The Far East Throwdown is the other semifinal going on, and we will get to see Roman Krennikov in action as he looks to get one step closer to competing at the CrossFit Games in person for the first time in his career.
And he can get a little revenge. Remember, last year he didn't qualify out of this event, had to go to the last chance qualifier. And really, we know that Roman excels in live competition. The last time we saw him on the competition floor was in Dubai, and he dominated that event. He beat Lazar Djukic, who looked great last weekend at the Lowlands. He beat Ricky Garrard, who qualified out of the Torium Pro. So I think all eyes are on Roman to see what version of him we're going to get to see out in South Korea.
We also had the adaptive and age group semifinals kick off this past weekend. We'll have a recap on that later in the week. And remember, the first 4 episodes of Miles to Madison are out now. You can catch those on the CrossFit Games YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. For Tommy Marquez, I'm Sean Woodland, and we'll talk to you next time.